If this has found you, I need to speak directly to your current situation. You may be on the verge of a transformation so significant that your present view cannot yet comprehend it. That long, quiet period of effort, the weight of the waiting, it is not wasted. Like the immense, unseen pressure that forms a diamond deep within the earth, these struggles are shaping a version of you with the capacity to handle what is coming. Stay with me for these next few moments, because the principles here are not hollow platitudes. They are about understanding why your current struggle is the most concrete evidence that you are close to the breakthrough you can finally sustain. Have you ever noticed how the final leg of a long journey often feels the most arduous? It's that strange compression of time where every moment feels stretched, as if the universe itself is testing the depth of your resolve. Picture a master luthier, a violin maker, in their workshop. They spend months, sometimes years, with a single block of maple wood. Day after day, the work is almost invisible, shaving off microns of wood, feeling the resonance, listening for a sound that does not yet exist. To an observer, the violin looks the same today as it did yesterday. That is what the waiting moment feels like, a test of faith stretched to its limit. What makes it so heavy is the lack of external validation. You continue your work, you maintain your discipline, but you receive no feedback that confirms your efforts are effective. It's like being a deep space satellite on a decades-long journey to a distant planet. For years, it travels in the silent void, making tiny, imperceptible course corrections. There are no landmarks, no applause, only the quiet hum of its own systems. The doubt can become deafening. You start to wonder if your trajectory is off, if you've been broadcasting into an empty void all this time. Your own mind doesn't make it any easier. The concept of incubation in creative psychology highlights this phenomenon. When we're stuck on a complex problem, breakthroughs often occur not while we're actively working, but when we've stepped away. This is because our subconscious mind continues to process the information, to test connections, to work in the background. If progress isn't loud and obvious, we assume it's absent. Your own brain struggles to register growth when it is silent and slow. But invisible progress is the most profound kind of progress. What feels like stagnation is often a period of deep internal reconfiguration. Waiting is not an empty space. It is not wasted time. It is preparation disguised as stillness. Picture how a pearl is formed within an oyster. It begins with a single grain of sand, an irritant, a source of friction. The oyster's response, over years, is to coat this irritant with layer upon layer of nacre. The process is hidden, slow, and born from discomfort. On the surface, nothing appears to be happening, but deep inside, something beautiful is being created through a process of patient protective layering. By the time the pearl is revealed, its strength and luster are already fully formed. In human terms, your waiting period is that foundation being built, even while you feel most irritated and still. And here is the shift in perspective worth embracing. If your frustration is peaking, that is not a sign of failure. It is a signal of your proximity to the goal. Doubt rarely visits those who are standing still. It shows up for those who have traveled far enough to feel the distance between where they are and where they are destined to be. That pressure is evidence that you are at a threshold. It only applies to those who are standing at the very edge of a significant change. Think again of that satellite in deep space. If it has been traveling long enough to feel the gravitational pull of its destination planet, it means it is already in the right place. The consistent pull is proof it is on the correct trajectory. The final, most critical maneuvers are yet to come. The tension you feel, that blend of exhaustion and anticipation, is part of the system ensuring you are perfectly positioned when you arrive. The heaviest waiting is truly a sign that forces are aligning quietly. The pearl is receiving its final layer. The satellite is preparing for orbital insertion. The waiting forces you to develop an internal guidance system that will keep you stable when everything external finally bursts into view. That is why the discomfort is so meaningful. It is not the absence of growth, but the final hidden stage before that growth becomes undeniable. And this leads to a more profound question. If this stage is designed to build strength, why does our brain obscure the progress, making it feel hidden instead of allowing us to see how far we've come? What if the strain you feel is not a flaw in your process, but a sign that your very consciousness is expanding? Think about it. We tend to see struggle as an error message, a sign that we're off course or missing a key piece of information. But what if it is the system itself undergoing a necessary upgrade? Strain has a way of pushing against our perceived limits, as if your internal framework is being stretched to accommodate a larger reality. That kind of movement isn't obvious, but it is real. We often think of awareness as a binary state, on or off. But a better analogy is the process of developing a photograph in a dark room. A sheet of photo paper may appear blank, but a latent image from the exposure already exists within it. It is only when the paper is submerged in a chemical bath in the total darkness that the image slowly, gradually begins to emerge. First, faint outlines appear, then deeper shadows, and finally, the full detailed picture is revealed. The image was always there. The dark room was simply the necessary environment for it to become visible. Your struggle is that dark room. The discomfort is the chemical process, making what is already inside you finally visible. Here's what is often missed. We measure our progress by external events. Did I get the promotion? Did the project succeed? Did I receive the validation? Yet the core of sustainable success never begins externally. It begins with what has been cultivated internally. Neuroscience confirms this. The true engine of change is not the external world, but your internal capacity to meet its demands. A powerful illustration comes from metallurgy. To temper a piece of steel, a blacksmith heats it to an extreme, almost unbearable temperature. The heat realigns the metal's crystalline structure. Then it is plunged into water, a sudden, violent shock. This process of extreme stress and shock is what transforms brittle iron into resilient, hardened steel. It is not a gentle process. It is a trial by fire. Your struggle works in the same way. Before your resilience becomes your defining characteristic, it often feels exactly like you are about to break. Before your capacity expands, it feels like burnout. The pain of this moment is not proof of failure. It is the signal of tempering, of growth actively occurring at a structural level. Here is the critical twist. If it feels like you are being stretched beyond your limits, that is not a punishment. It is evidence that you are developing the capacity to hold more. The future you are moving toward has weight. It carries new responsibilities, greater pressures, a larger scale of impact than what you have managed before. Without this tempering phase, you would not have the internal structure to carry it. So, the very fear that you are not ready is proof that readiness is being forged within you in real time. Think of it as a latent period in a chemical reaction. You can mix two substances, and for a long time, nothing seems to happen. Then, a critical threshold is met, and a sudden, rapid transformation occurs. Your current hardship is that latent period. It is building the internal capacity you will need not just to achieve success, but to sustain it when it arrives. This feeling of being stuck is not a stall. It is proof of a profound, hidden movement. The growth is real, even if the world around you still looks the same, which brings us to the final, crucial point. If you are not standing still, but are in fact being tempered and prepared, how can you recognize when the threshold is directly in front of you? Right before a major shift, life has a way of testing the last reserves of your patience. It's that moment when every fiber of your being is telling you to give up, because the pressure has been relentless for too long. You keep going, but you feel like you're stuck in a loop, encountering the same obstacles, facing the same challenges over and over. And the truth is, you are not imagining that loop. Those nearing a breakthrough often experience it as a final pressure test, a chamber designed to prepare you for the very thing you have been asking for. Think about that paradox. The closer you are to your destination, the more intense the resistance becomes. It should feel easier, but it doesn't. The moment before the breakthrough is almost always the most difficult. This is why so many turn back here, believing the silence means their efforts were in vain. Yet, the pressure is not evidence of failure. It is the unmistakable signal that you are at the precipice of transition. This isn't just a hopeful idea. Research into resilience consistently shows how significant setbacks are what carve out the abilities that easy victories can never provide. When your initial plans fail, you are forced to innovate, to find new pathways, to develop a flexibility you wouldn't learn otherwise. Effortless success does not teach you how to adapt. Hardship does. And the problem-solving capacity you have been forced to build in this difficult season is the very thing that will keep you steady when the opportunity finally arrives. So, what feels like an unfair test is actually nature's way of ensuring you have the strength you will need once the door opens. Picture the pearl again. The final layers are the most critical, perfecting its luster. That final stage of hidden development is what gives it its ultimate value. Now, bring that image back to yourself. If right now you feel like the pressure is at its maximum, that is not a random occurrence. It is the final layer being applied because you are almost ready to be revealed. The tension you feel so acutely is the signal of a transformation about to complete itself. That kind of pressure doesn't show up when you are far from your goal. It only arrives when you are already there. What makes this moment so deceptive is how little of this growth you can see externally. While your conscious mind is registering stagnation, your deeper self is being fundamentally upgraded. Your old models of what you thought you were capable of are being rewritten. Your identity is quietly reconfiguring itself to hold more than it once could. Here's the truth most people miss. The harder this season feels, the more concrete evidence you have that you are standing right at the point of release. Why else would the pressure culminate now, after you have already traveled so far? It builds to its strongest point right before things open. That is how thresholds function. That final resistance is a marker. It does not mean you have failed. It means you have persevered long enough to arrive at the place where change is inevitable. Seeing it this way changes everything. Waiting no longer looks like a punishment. It looks like a confirmation. Every delay, every setback, every frustrating loop you are tired of repeating, they are not signs that you have been abandoned. They are evidence that you have reached the very barrier that was always meant to open for you. And once you truly recognize that, giving up is no longer an option. Because why would you walk away when the resistance itself is proof of your arrival? So, this period you are in right now, this stretch where your patience feels exhausted and the results feel distant, is not the end of your journey. It is the final, silent moment before everything you have been working for begins to unfold. The discomfort you feel is not wasted. It is shaping you in a way that ease never could. If this message resonates with where you are, write the phrase, "My foundation is set," in the comments. Let that be a declaration, your recognition that the silent work is complete and you are ready. Hold on to this knowledge. You are not stuck. You are being solidified. The moment you have been waiting for is closer than you can possibly imagine.